Welcome back, everybody. We are thrilled to have a discussion about use cases with Merce Crosas, who's the University Research Data Management Officer at the Harvard University Information Technology Office, and also the Chief Data Science and Technology Officer at the Institute for Quantitative Social Science at Harvard, and Ilya Mironov, research scientist at Facebook, who lots of you know, I'm sure, from OpenDP. So Merce, it's all yours.
Thank you, Gary. And I'm also thrilled to be here and to be part of the first OpenDP community meeting. And I'll be talking about use cases. Any of you who have created or developed a product know you should start with the use cases are a critical part of defining and designing the features for the product. So that's why we want to start from with the use cases first in this presentation. So what are use cases we envision for OpenDP? So first, the archival data repositories are becoming a key part of academic research because they need to provide data for to share to the research community, and they follow some of the requirements that are established by funders and journals to share those data sets once the research result is published. So we want to offer academic researchers with privacy preserving access to sensitive data through data repositories. Also for government agencies, OpenDP can play a role to safely be able to share sensitive data with researchers, with policymakers, and with the broader public. And for companies that as Gary already talked about in the case of Facebook, that collect data from the users, from the customers, that could help answer social science research questions, health, medicine research questions, and we want to OpenDP can play a role bringing those data to researchers. And a more urgent and greatly important use case at this point is trying to understand and combat the spread of COVID-19. And we can do that by being able to access in a responsible way the data that government, industry, and academia are collecting and collaborate across all these groups. So I will first describe a few use cases that relate more to data repositories. This could apply to any data repository. And the first one, I'll talk about 3 use cases. The first one is about being able to release summary statistics about a data set without having to even go to analyze all the data, but be able to have summary statistics that are differentially private and can be released safely. The other use case is helping to help facilitate reproducibility of research results that have been obtained with sensitive data sets. And the third one is a much broader use case to allow almost any statistical analysis of sensitive data sets that are findable or have been shared through a data repository. So I will talk about these 3 use cases in the context of Dataverse. The Dataverse software, for those who don't know about it, is an open source software for data repositories. It has currently 59 Dataverses or Dataverse repositories around the world. It includes almost repositories in every continent, and it has a very active and engaged community of users and contributors. The Harvard Dataverse itself is one of those repositories and has 96,000 searchable data sets with 14 million downloads so far, and it's open to all research fields and all researchers. So to describe the use case, the first use case in a more detail, we have we start with the data depositor wants to deposit a sensitive data file. This planning in the case of Dataverse, that it could be another repository type of repository as well. And that the depositor decides, well, wants to create a summary statistics of the that are differentially private, that are safe to release. So opens OpenDP, selects the privacy loss parameter, and runs, and that, well, it runs the differential privacy summary statistics results, and then those results are in a summary statistic metadata file that go back to Dataverse, and this process could be done even automated. And then what happens is that you get a user goes to Dataverse and can just explore the variables, search the data set, look at the summary statistics without accessing the data file. The data file in fact is restricted, and it has what we with the system that we plan to use with Dataverse, it has an orange data tag, which means that the file cannot be accessed. So an example of that with screenshots, you have a data set page which has a file that is restricted with this orange data tag, but you still see an icon that tells you here you can explore the data set and you can look at the summary statistics. You open the Data Explorer and you find a differential privacy summary statistics. So then for use case 2, for reproducibility of research with sensitive data, the data author is submitting a paper in the journal, and at the same time is encouraged or required to share the data. In this case, it's a sensitive replication data file, so the data file cannot be accessed by the public, but it wants to generate a differential privacy release that could help reproduce the results. So that's in this case, OpenDP selects the privacy loss parameters, selects a differential privacy release that will help reproduce the results of his work, of her work, and then OpenDP returns this differential privacy replication release to Dataverse, and the data reviewer from the journal can go and verify the results published in the journal article by looking at the DP replication release. And then for use case 3, we have a data depositor that deposits a sensitive data file to Dataverse. It wants to enable, in this case, for any user to be able to have access to run any statistical analysis using OpenDP. So wants to enable that, and OpenDP needs to select the privacy loss parameters, configure, in this case, a privacy loss budget. And OpenDP tells Dataverse that for this data set, turn on or enable the OpenDP query interface for end users. So now the data user is even happier because can go to Dataverse, can open the DP interface for that data file that could not access otherwise, but can run statistical analysis of his choice. So these integrate, I'm not going to go into detail here, but this integrates together, together with 3 components mainly. The Dataverse software repository is one part of it. The OpenDP is another one. And then we plan to integrate also with trusted remote storage agents or data enclaves that are part of the impact project developed in University of North Carolina and RANSI, and that have a notary service in the front to be able to only allow authorized or approved users, or in this case could be OpenDP, to access the data to run the differential privacy statistical analysis. So putting this trusted remote storage for the data and having the data secured there, and the OpenDP between the repository and this trusted storage allows to separate the raw data, the original sensitive data sets that the end user never has access to, with the analysis and the summary statistics that the user can get from that data set. So I'll go briefly also about describing a few use cases for government agencies that in fact are very similar to the data repository use cases. So as you all well have seen in the recent years, even more government agencies with smart cities, with a lot of data-driven policy making decisions. They're collecting a lot of data to understand better how to help guide policies and understand better their governments, the cities, the countries, and so. So often these data are being made open by some of those governments, but in some cases, obviously, we know that there are privacy issues and there are sensitive data sets, and OpenDP can help to still release those data sets, but first, with using differential privacy and through OpenDP by creating richer statistical summaries, so they release the entire data set, but still the public, any citizen, researchers, policymakers can still access these rich statistical summaries. And they also, with OpenDP, could help to generate differentially private synthetic data. That synthetic data would reflect many.
Merce, we should probably switch to Ilya because we have to keep to this rigorous schedule, or Annie will be in trouble. We'll be in trouble with Annie.
Perfect. So let's switch. Thank you.
Okay. Do you see my screen? Yep, very good. Thank you for the opportunity to share a view from the industry. So I've had a chance to work on in several large companies, Microsoft, Google, and now Facebook. Just to kind of make it clear, I'm speaking for myself, not for my past, present, or future employers. Instead of describing a few scattershot examples that are relevant to the industry, I want to differentiate what the industry is looking for in a tool like OpenDP. How is it different from academic uses, and also give you describe some axes that are useful in classifying the type of use cases that are prevalent in the industry. And in my experience, I've seen basically examples that cover the entirety of the Cartesian product of this axis. So instead of, like in this talk, instead of going through like 2 or 3 use cases, you'll be able to, I'll expose you to easily more than like a few dozen of them. So the types of data that we deal in these large corporations is often different from academic data sets. So the industrial data sets are high dimensional, often multimodal. They involve images, the texts, numbers, etc. There is no fixed schema to a typical data set that we have access to internally in these large corporations. The scale is often very different from small academic data sets. And one important component is that there is the time dimension to the data that we collect. So our data sets describe an evolving user population, and this these changes are just as important as the snapshots at any given time. So the user, when we are talking about sharing access to sensitive data, the number one question is, who are we sharing this data, this access with? And I want to emphasize that internal use cases of sharing data inside the corporation is just as important to those corporations. We're not monoliths. We are not necessarily trustworthy to at the same level of, we are not having necessarily the same level of access to even the internal data sets. There are industry partners, there are external researchers, and there's the general public. And of course, this use case, this users are listed not in the order of importance, but roughly in the order of complexity. Internal use cases are typically richer than something that we are looking to share with industry partners, etc. The types of accesses we are talking about can be thought as non-interactive, like just publishing a data set, like throwing it off the fence, and making sure that that data set is privacy preserving, but that's kind of becomes an artifact in itself. Or it can be some interactive exploratory tools. And again, depending on the use case, one can be a high priority than the other. What is the purpose? Business intelligence, which basically means simple histograms, statistics and research, where the emphasis is on capturing uncertainty, and there is a much higher bar for avoiding false positives like type 1, type 2 errors. And finally, there's a use case that where I personally spent 100% of my time on, which is machine learning. And before I think Gary has done an excellent job describing what Social Science 1, how it was conceived. At the breakout session tomorrow, we hope to get someone from an inside view of how the use case of Social Science 1 is supported from inside Facebook. So let me wrap up here and identify one of the goals for tomorrow's breakout session, which is to get a number of no answers. Our goal with OpenDP is not to boil the ocean. Boiling the ocean on another planet, which is the industry, is a even far-fetched goal. So we want to scope OpenDP mission to something that is that we can reasonably tackle within the time and financial budget. And in particular, I'm perfectly fine hearing from the collective view that some of the use cases that the industry cares about deeply may not be relevant to the academic researchers. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to an engaging discussion tomorrow.